Richard Smallwood was not just a singer. He was a man whose music touched hearts in ways most people could never imagine. He passed away quietly at 12:36 in the morning, leaving behind a legacy that changed gospel music forever. Some of his songs made Whitney Houston cry while recording. One song he wrote during one of the hardest moments of his life ended up being sung at a school tragedy, helping people find comfort in grief. His story was not just about fame. It was about how a man turned his pain into music that gave millions strength. Richard Smallwood died from complications related to kidney failure at a nursing center in Maryland. However, the story behind his final years is something few people were talking about. This was a man who could have retired decades ago. Presidents called him, major music labels wanted him, and yet he spent his last days in a nursing facility, struggling with health issues that stopped him from doing what he loved most, making music. To understand why his final years were so difficult, one must look back at the life that made him extraordinary. Richard Smallwood was not a typical gospel singer. He was born in November 1948 in Atlanta and grew up in Washington, D.C. He began playing piano at just 5 years old. But here is the amazing part. He could not read music. He played everything by ear, meaning he had a natural gift nobody else could match. By age 11, while other children were playing outside or worrying about homework, Smallwood had already formed his first gospel group. He was leading other musicians before most people even knew what they wanted to do with their lives. Smallwood's education added to his brilliance. He studied at Howard University alongside legends, including Donny Hathaway, and his 8th grade music teacher was Roberta Flack, who would later become one of the most celebrated voices in music history. However, Smallwood did not just learn from people around him. He fell in love with the music of Johann Sebastian Bach, calling him his favorite composer. That love for classical music shaped the way he created gospel songs. While most gospel music followed familiar patterns, Smallwood combined classical techniques with modern gospel. The result was a sound no one had heard before. In 1977, he formed the Richard Smallwood Singers. But it took 5 years before he signed his first record deal. During that time, he performed wherever he could, growing his audience without any major support. When his debut album came out in 1982, it shocked the music world. It stayed on Billboard's spiritual album sales chart for 87 weeks, almost 2 full years. Back then, gospel music was mostly for older audiences, but Smallwood made it appeal to young adults and college students. He made gospel music cool in a way no one had done before. The singers in his group were incredible. Their voices were powerful and strong, making every song unforgettable. Smallwood did not just write music. He built a team that could bring it to life in a way people had never heard before. The music industry noticed. Every major gospel label wanted him. He did not struggle because of talent. He struggled because the business itself was tricky. Some labels supported him, some did not. Eventually, he signed with what is now RCA Inspiration and made a bold move. He created a new group called Vision, a large choir that could perform the complex arrangements he was writing. It was during this time that Smallwood wrote a song that would define his career, Total Praise. He wrote it in 1996 while his mother was seriously ill and his godbrother was dying from brain cancer. Imagine losing 2 people you love deeply and feeling helpless. Most people would break. Smallwood wrote a song instead. A song that became a lifeline for millions of people. He said God gave him that song in the middle of his pain, helping him find peace while everything around him was falling apart. At first, he did not think the song would mean much to anyone else. However, it did. Destiny's Child performed it in 2007. Stevie Wonder played it. It became a standard in churches everywhere. And in one of the most emotional moments, families affected by the Sandy Hook Elementary School tragedy requested total praise at funerals for their children. That song, written from personal sorrow, brought comfort to people facing unimaginable grief. Another song that cemented his fame was I Love the Lord. Whitney Houston included it in the soundtrack for The Preacher's Wife, bringing Smallwood's music to people who had never been to a church. Suddenly, his song was everywhere, weddings, events, even radio stations. Other artists like Boyz II Men also used his work, proving that Smallwood's influence reached beyond gospel. Smallwood performed for 3 United States presidents, Nixon, Reagan, and Clinton. His music crossed political and social boundaries, connecting people through sound and message. The Richard Smallwood Singers even toured the Soviet Union in the late 1980s, during tense Cold War years. His music was not just entertainment. It was a bridge between people. Awards and recognition followed. 8 Grammy nominations, multiple Dove and Stellar Awards, an induction into the Gospel Music Hall of Fame in 2006. But what set him apart was more than the awards. His piano playing told stories. His classical training made every song intricate and emotional. He wrote about joy and celebration, yes, but he also wrote about pain, sorrow, and struggle. His songs met people where they were and told them it was okay to feel their feelings. However, the last years of his life were hard. Health problems, including mild dementia, kept him from recording new music. The world still needed his art, but his body could not keep up. Recognition came late. In December 2023, the mayor of Washington, D.C., declared December 1st as Richard Smallwood Day for his 75th birthday. But by then, his health had already begun to decline. The music industry often waits until artists are gone to honor them. Smallwood's story shows how cruel that timing can be. He wrote an autobiography in 2019, Total Praise, where he shared his personal struggles. He opened up about grief, depression, and carrying the pain of others through music. Even while inspiring millions, he needed healing himself. His last recordings with Vision proved that his talent never left him, even as his health declined. Smallwood's music did not just stay in churches. Songs like Center of My Joy became wedding favorites. Total Praise became a funeral standard. I Love the Lord became a worship anthem. His songs outlasted trends, genres, and generations. Contemporary gospel artists today still follow the path he created, combining classical training with gospel heart, tackling deep emotions, and making music that speaks to everyone, not just churchgoers. Smallwood also held a master's degree in divinity from Howard University, showing he cared about understanding faith as much as expressing it. That knowledge added depth to his songs, making them unique and meaningful. When he passed, the outpouring of love was immense. Artists shared stories about how his music shaped their lives. They praised his mentorship and inspiration. However, beyond tributes, there is a lesson. Even the greatest artists can face struggles quietly, and the world sometimes notices too late. His music continues to play in churches, at weddings, at funerals, and in people's homes. Total Praise still brings chills. I Love the Lord still moves hearts. New generations will discover him and wonder how they had not heard about this incredible artist sooner. Richard Smallwood's life teaches that music is not just entertainment. It is healing, ministry, and connection. His songs are not just notes and lyrics. They are lifelines for people facing joy, sorrow, or loss. He shared his gifts selflessly, giving comfort, hope, and beauty to the world. Even in the quiet of a nursing center, away from recording studios and applause, Smallwood left behind something eternal. A blueprint for creating music that speaks to the soul, that carries human emotion, and that stays meaningful long after the last note fades. He showed that true artistry comes from honesty, vulnerability, and the courage to share your pain so others do not have to face theirs alone. Richard Smallwood will be remembered not just for the songs he made, but for the lives he touched through them. That is the gift he leaves behind, a gift that will keep playing, giving hope and strength to anyone who listens.